No, I'm just saying, you can think you know the future, and you can think, you can admit you don't know it. Do we agree now? Okay, I love that. Keep challenging me. So if you know the future and you're optimistic, how many lines of business do you go into? Oh, you know the future, and you know what it is going to be. That's what you build. So you build one line of business, and you typically build an ecosystem to support it. And those companies are named Google, Apple, Facebook, Salesforce. Get a pattern there? Amazon started with books, built an ecosystem, built a larger business. We agree on that. So if you don't know the future, but you think it's better, you can start exploring. Fun to explore. You get to make lots of chemicals. And those companies are called drug companies like Pfizer. Or you go drill for oil. You go look for things like ExxonMobil. If you know the future and it's worse, those are really good businesses to be in because you can start to hedge your bets. And those companies are like financial services, like Aon or Goldman Sachs. Chase would be an example there. Goldman Sachs knows that the market's going to get worse at some point, and they have hedge strategies to put that in place. Finally, if you don't know the future and it's a shitty future, that's actually a lot of people. What do you do there? You don't hedge your bets, you hedge your business. So you spray and pray, and your name is Xerox, IBM, HP. Kind of, this is the graveyard of tech, right? Now, the validation that this is actually truthful is, as an entrepreneur, I believe that I need to pick a measure of success for both myself and my team. Because if you measure things, you can actually manage it. If you manage it, you actually have a hope of improving it. So my vision for my company is to create a lot of wealth for the people that build the company. So that is called market cap. And since we're dealing with people, not building wealth for machines, my measurement is market cap per person or market cap per employee. And if we take this measurement and we look over here, the market cap in this quadrant is around 10 million per employee. Qualcomm would be in here as well. 8 to 10 million. Not bad. Google can pay you $300,000 a year, and you're still worth 30 times more than that to them. Right? Is that right? Or 30 times more than that. So down here, if you're optimistic and you don't know the future, these companies, explorers, they're worth about half, say about 5 million for the best of class. Similar over here, this is about 3 to 5. This is a little bit more. Best of class here is also about 5 million. But down here, like 400K. This is where you don't want to be building a company. I don't know how to build these companies. You'd have to be in a different group because these companies this is biotech here. Here, this is massive capital to get into something like this. When you talk to the local investors and they say, hey man, seed stage investment, when are you going to be profitable? You're immediately talking about things that are down here. Because there's no way to really grow something like this big, this fast. In my knowledge, it has not been done with seed stage investments that just go from seed to billion-dollar companies. And I don't think it's worth starting a company unless you're building something big. If you're not building a billion-dollar company, you don't need to be an entrepreneur. You need to go get a job at a company where you can go start a business inside of a company. And I think they call themselves intrapreneurs or some it's called doing your job, right? And that's okay. That's a good place to be. My wife's one of those people. She goes to work, does her job, gets a paycheck. She's awesome. My wife is brilliant, absolutely brilliant woman. Came to this country with $100 in her pocket, not knowing a word of English, put herself through UCSD undergrad in engineering, UCSD graduated in UCSD engineering, and then went to do post-grad work at Caltech. She's not stupid. right? But she's not an entrepreneur. She's not swinging for the fences. She was dumb enough to marry a guy that is. And so what I would say, if you need to really know who you are as a person, and if you have an investor, if you've got $1 billion idea and they're asking you when you're going to be profitable, you leave the room. Because if you've got something that's that powerful and that big, you have a lot to offer them. Yes?
What quadrant would you say a company like Microsoft fits in? Because looking back 10 years ago, Microsoft would have been on that.
Microsoft is definitely here. They started off with one product line, an operating system. They're still one. I mean, I'm of the generation that hates Microsoft because they've done lots of bad things to me when I built things in .NET and they abandoned entire technologies. I mean, but that aside, Microsoft is an extraordinarily well-run company. I think the new CEO is absolutely brilliant. I'm reading a really good book right now by Laszlo Block called Work Rules, which he complements the change of strategy that Microsoft had in how they manage their human capital. And so I think Microsoft certainly would be considered at the top. And it pains me to say that because I'm not a big Microsoft fan. But you know, they are one of the 4 biggest technology companies, and they make money. They make a lot of money, right? Next question, yes, sir.
So a lot of us, like, we're going to be at the idea stage and not actually be operating yet, so we don't have like a concrete, like for our financial forecast, it's not going to be concrete revenue. It's more going to be like proxy assumptions and whatnot.
Yep.
Are we supposed to be focusing on like our assumptions and our justifications, or like our perceived milestones?
Great question. Wow. That's a question of general. I would have to know the specifics of your situation. I'm really excited that one of my new investors teaches. It was so much fun. I got invited to go give a class like this at UC Berkeley to their MBA program. And really phenomenal class. And the guy who's teaching it is the guy that came up with the lean startup method. His name's Steve Blank. And one of his co-instructors was the guy that invited me to teach in this class. I think that for what you're describing, a general approach, which is always enlightening, is to follow are you familiar with Lean Startup? So I think the Lean Startup method, where you're generating a business model canvas, is a really good place. That if you can do a business model canvas and actually shit out a prototype that you can show some validation against, that is a wonderful place to start talking to investors. We've done this, here's our lean canvas, and you saw it in mine, right? You saw that we'd done a lot of lean canvases, right? And we're still doing them now. We've got a product that we're in development now that is our subscription product. We don't talk about it in the deck because it's just too much of an idea at this stage. But when we finish that lean canvas and have enough validation around it, I think that's what I would do. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yep. I know I'm not being all, cheery, wonderful, San Diego's such an innovation economy type of person up here. I'm trying to give you a dose of reality of, I want to grow San Diego's economy, and I'm the type of person that believes you deal with problems head on rather than mask over them. First company I started was in Chicago, and there was no capital back then in Chicago. And we bootstrapped it, The company's now doing $100 million a year in revenue. I sold out too early, but I still made enough money that when I was 28, I could retire. So I think that you can start great companies anywhere, and I would argue that San Diego is an awesome place to start a company if you can build the right team, build the right culture, and find truth that no one else has but you, where San Diego provides some type of competitive advantage. And I can tell you the competitive advantages for us are pretty astounding. I am able to overcome a lot of the weaknesses of the Bay Area by being in San Diego. Yeah.
Quick question. Now, when you say building a team, right, building a solid team, when you go out there, what do you look for in other people to build your team? What type of qualities and work?
So I feel like we're getting to the good question. So the question is, how do you build a great team? So this seminar is supposed to be on how to raise money. And I just opened up the door saying, okay, San Diego sucks for raising money. That's not your competitive advantage. There's other areas where to get competitive advantage in San Diego that have nothing to do with money, team being one of them. So how to build a great team is a subject that cannot be covered in a few sentences. I can tell you what we have done is we really focus a lot on culture. We believe we have a culture document that is based on what Mark Benioff developed at Salesforce called the V2 MOM. And I know you guys, I've bashed on acronyms, and here I am using an acronym, but V2 MOM stands for vision, values, methods, obstacles, and measurements, right? And so that's where V2, it's V2, that's the way it's typically written. We believe that in a culture where we have three pillars. First is mastery. Get people that want to be the best in the world at what they're doing, and they're not starting from ground zero. They actually show some mastery already. But you have the attitude that I'm forever a beginner, and I hold myself to that, where we're trying to be the best in the world at what we do. Secondly is sense of purpose. If you get a bunch of masters together, why should they work together? They need to be building something bigger than themselves to actually know that, and for us, we want that sense of purpose to really be around the success of our customers. That we know that we're empowering people to live their dreams, to really blow the doors off their competition and win. And the last is autonomy. I think very talented people don't want to be micromanaged, and I don't want to be the micromanager. So autonomy, mastery, and sense of purpose is an idea that came directly out of the book Drive by Daniel Pink, which I think is another one that everyone should read. And from that, we've got other things that we draw upon for inspiration. So if you actually Google my name or Google LeadCrunch and V2 MOM, you can read our V2 MOM. We made it public. And so when we go out and recruit people, we say, hey, this is the genesis story of how we started. This is our culture that we're trying to build. And we want people that are attracted to that really feel that energy and want to be part of it. And yes, we are hiring right now. So if you're interested in joining our company, please send me your resume. We're hiring across the board. And so I think that what I would suggest in terms of building a company is it really is about who the founders are and how they treat people is the first and foremost. That's the cornerstone. And in our company, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. That's a quote from somebody else. I don't know who said it. But we really try to build our culture around it. And the proof of that is last engineering position we had open, we had 134 applicants. We gave code tests to 30. 2 passed out of 134 applicants. We got our first pick, and he's a rock star. And he's humble enough to know that he's surrounded by people that are really good at what they do. Steve Biafor, my chief scientist, I know he gets recruited by Google because he comes and tells me, right? Like this guy, the Falcon algorithm was bought for $820 million. He knows what he's doing. He's built AI systems before. So I think that if you build a good team and you have good leadership, then it starts to attract the next generation. And in the culture that we are, everybody's a leader. The definition of leadership is getting someone else to do what they couldn't do on their own, right? So it's a much different culture than going to a place where, Joe, here's what you're going to do today, and here's what you're going to be measured on. That's not the culture we're trying to build. But I think that everyone's going to have their own style and their own way, and what works for me is not necessarily transferable to you. I do think that there are some fundamental principles that you can learn from great organizations like, here's a couple books to read. Jim Collins wrote 2, Good to Great and Built to Last. Laszlo Block, Work Rules. Angela Duckworth, Grit, Power of Perseverance. I think that if you read those, you'd start to get a feeling for it. And you can also look at, I blogged about the power of trust. I think Trust by Covey, C-O-V-Y, is an important book. Because I believe in a really strong environment, a strong team, the currency that you exchange is actually a currency of trust. And we have a very specific definition of trust. It's not just a word. It's a measurable, quantifiable thing. And that's a separate thing. I could go into that for 5 minutes. Yes, sir.
Would you say a little more about the comparative advantage of San Diego?
Yeah, so I just put it on my Facebook page, actually. My wife wants us to move up there because she's got job offers up there. I'm like, sweetie, I don't want to do that. $2,226 per square foot is what it costs to buy a nice place in San Francisco. So that's $3.5 million for a 1,500 square foot, 2-bedroom place with no parking and a $3,000 a month HOA fee. So I live in a nice place here, but I don't pay that kind of money, right? So the cost of living is one comparative advantage. Second comparative advantage is retention. So in our culture, in our company, we believe in a culture of ownership and commitment. So what that means is that we are committed to people that are committed to us. And so it becomes something where we really want our team to be with us for a long time. One of the KPIs or key performance indicators for myself is that 80% of the people that get a vesting program complete it. Meaning that after they're with us for 3 months, they get a stock option plan that vests after 4 years. That means I can lose 1 out of 22 people per year, right? So far, we've lost 0. If they make it to the 3-month mark, we've not been around long enough to know whether it's going to work, but so far 0. That would never happen in the Bay Area. One of my investors is the former CEO of FICO, who invented the FICO score, told him I was going to do this, and he said, "You're nuts. No one can hold on to tech talent like that." Why? Because he's thinking of it from a Bay Area perspective. So cost of living, retention, recruiting. There's a lot of people, particularly at UCSD, that wind up going to work. The largest recruiter in UCSD is Google and Amazon, right? Or Microsoft. So do you want to go live in Seattle or the Bay Area? Some people actually want to live here. I'm one of them. I think it's a great place to live. So I think recruiting is one of the key things. The challenge with San Diego is you need to get the people that have fire in their belly, right? That really want to do make the sacrifices, the personal sacrifices that are necessary to build success. You know, I eat nails in the morning and I enjoy the taste of blood in my mouth. You need to have that kind of attitude. Yes, sir.
Quick question. When you're pitching and you're presenting the problem that you're solving to your audience, how do you go about it? Do you try to relate it to a story so people can understand it better? Do you keep it more technical? How do you usually go about it?
My favorite answer is it depends, right? So that's again a situational, contextual thing. I think stories are always way more powerful. If you can put the story of Sean Savage in his picture up and say, I'm solving Sean Savage's problem, then make it personal. That's a very powerful place to be. But and it depends on whether you're B2C, B2B. It really depends upon how far along you are, whether you actually have those proof points. So it depends. But the answer is try them both, and you will start to feel in your bones whether it's a good thing or not. And you'll certainly get feedback. Yes, sir.
So if you have a business and you know that it has a pretty good potential, but you don't see it, at least in its current form, going to be $1 billion company unless you repurpose some of your algorithms or go into other industries or things like that. Should you be focusing on trying to see that $1 billion picture, or should you just focus on that $20 million or whatever you see in front of you?
Both are the right answers. It really depends upon I have a lot of friends that are a lot richer than I am that focused on $20 million businesses. It's really comes down to, but they didn't. If you're focusing on a $20 million business, don't go raise money. My view is that when I've tried to do small things, I've failed more than when I've tried to do big things, because the risk is exactly this, or negligible difference between the risk of doing a $20 million business and a $100 million business. The risk is not 5x greater, right? The risk might be 2% greater. So it's a no-brainer you go for the bigger ones, right? And in fact, in some cases, I think the bigger ones have lower risk. What it looks like to have a business with 0 revenue versus 1 million versus 10 million, those are very different feeling businesses. And they're different problems that you face. And I find that, in the businesses that I've had, I've exited around the 10 million mark. I haven't taken something to a $100 million business is now $1 billion company. I've never done that. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I want to do that. But if you've got a $20 million idea and you like the idea and it's fun for you, figure out how to make that work. And you might be able to raise, one of my companies I invested in is, they're a soil, a fertilizer. And they take the waste from breweries and the waste from sewage, shit and beer, mix it together, and it's actually more nutritious than organic fertilizer. Now, that's never going to be $1 billion company, right? But it's a small bet for me. Yeah, I'll put some money into it, and I'll help the guy get it off the ground. And I like the founder, and I like the team. I help build out the team. It's a great thing. But that's not one where I would ever say, hey, they should go out and talk to VCs. In fact, I've told them I'm not going to give you introductions to VCs because it's not a fundable business. Don't waste your time. Don't waste my introduction.
And when we're pitching, would you rather say, because a lot of the analytics, as mentioned before, is kind of like adaptive for the situation, we don't have a lot of test cases yet with regards to this competition. What would you recommend? Would you recommend underselling our value or overselling it? Because it's easy to do both. It's just right now we're not sure whether, well, I'm not sure personally whether if I put that by 2020 or by 2025, I will have 1 million clients, and I look at the available market after doing that type of research. Would you rather pitch over or pitch under that instance?
That's a great question. So the question is, do you pitch over or under on an idea stage company? And this relates back to whoever over here had an idea. I think and this kind of ties to your question. What I think is a good way to go is tell a story, consider it entertainment, not a business pitch, and show the size of the market. It's a big market. It's a big market. Our market's $160 billion market, what we're playing at. Now the smart investors say, 160 billion is too big. What's the little tiny beachhead you're going after? And I had an investor pitch today, and that's exactly what they did. It was an online pitch. It was a follow-up from one meeting, and looks like they're going to write a check. And it's a nice check, too. For us, it looks like this is going to be 100,000 from him, and then he's got 350,000 following. But in that case, I'm selling a much different story. In your case, what I'd do is I'd come up with a great story. You've got a great story already. Everybody wants to know about somebody from South Africa. You got a great, I grew up in Joburg, and this is my story, and this is, I had this problem, and there's 20 million other people in America with this problem, and 400 million worldwide with this problem, and I've got the solution. And it's this compelling story that's fun to listen to, and you can get a laugh or two. That's the way I would go. I would not try to put numbers on it. Unsophisticated investors and sophisticated investors both focus on financial models. The right answer on a financial model, even for me, is it's science fiction. There is no way I can be accurate 3 years out from today, right? But I'm far enough along that I can do monthly updates and do planned actual variance. I can adjust a little bit as I go. When you're early stage, you can't do that. And an unsophisticated investor is going to look at your deck. And this happened to me over at UCSD. This idiot had never started a company, had never invested in a company, and sat there and said, well, your financial plan's not realistic. I know that. I started as an idea stage company too, right? But I think that don't oversell or unsell, tell a different story. Reframe it. Another good book to read is Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff. I know Oren personally, and his book is an entertaining book, and I think that it's an effective thing to learn how to pitch ideas. You want to appeal to the very primitive part of our brain that's very emotional.
And I'm not too sure sure how we're looking on time. We're at 6:15 at the moment, around 6:15.
Just-
How much time do you have?
Let's do five more minutes. I mean, it feels like I'm putting some of you to sleep, but I love to hear my voice, so we can keep going for a little bit.
So if they're wanting, like, would you rather take the time to do more individual, like hands-on with the people who want to have specific questions with you?
Well, does anyone have a pitch they want to give to the group right now? And that we can slaughter you for you to you want to go?
90
Good.
seconds, 30 seconds?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a couple 90-second pitches.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, come on down here.
We can quit recording. You can keep your pitch private for the main